The last time I was at a briefing, I promised that this week I would come with some information pertaining to exactly the police force in connection with the robberies and the situation at the prison. The police has been busy, very busy, on many fronts, implementing improvements as mentioned in their plan of approach for the police force. In spite of the many challenges, they have managed to book great improvements, for which I congratulate Chief Carl John and his team. However, we all know the island has been plagued by some very violent robberies recently, with the situation reaching the level of acceptability. The population is worried and some feel unsafe. The feeling of security and feeling safe must be restored to our community. I have said at the beginning of my term that I would present my plan to combat these robberies this week. Some took it as I was saying that I'm making another plan to add to the many that already exist. There are reports made by the Council of Law Enforcement, the Progress Committee, the police themselves, and the ministry, and others. And now it is time to implement those plans. So what we have done, we have looked at all of those plans and their recommendations. We have spoken to almost all of the stakeholders involved, and I have asked the police to come up with a synopsis from all of those things as an immediate solution of how we can deal with that situation. And the most important factor from all of those plans would be the capacity of the police force. That is the red line through all of those things. There are not enough police available to do all what has to be done. Also taking into consideration that many of the newly recruited officers the past year, 2 years, are now in training. So at certain times they are not available to be on the road, but they have to undergo those training. Otherwise, we too would be in violation of their rights to those trainings. So a plan has been put forward which would entail the recruitment of 20 new officers. And the 20 new officers, it would be split between recruits, new recruited people, because in the end, we don't want to be standing here 5 years from now saying that we don't have our own people in the force. And from what I understand from the police, it was not a matter of finding locals who were willing to go into the force. It was just that there was no possibilities in hiring them because of all the other problems that we had. So we'll go over to hiring new recruits, which would also be immediately put into the training. And we would be hiring also experienced police officers. These experienced police officers more than likely would have to be recruited from abroad. However, I have spoken to the unions on this matter, and the recruitment of police officers from abroad in no form or fashion would hamper the progress of any of the existing police officers within the line. So the newly recruited police officers would not be able to be placed or put in the positions by which they would block present officers from their career development. So that is the major part of it. The supplementary parts of it are the camera project. The camera project that is ready to go, has been approved, has been paid for, definitely phase 1, but was stuck in the execution. I spoke to the company that is supervising that, which is Telem, and I was assured that within 2 to 3 weeks, the phase 1 part of the camera project can start being implemented. So the camera project would be online. The priority areas would be those areas as indicated by the police. So the police was involved in the planning, and where the cameras would come would be the priority areas, the first set of cameras indicated by the police. The other area is the Justice Academy. We have a Justice Academy where we're supposed to be training our local law enforcement officers, and a lot needed to be regulated there. I met with the board of the Justice Academy, and apart from that, also in the first part of with the recruiting of the police officers, with the chief of police too, and the Justice Academy, which is running, which is functioning right now. You see the officers, what we call the buff pollers, who were working in the police force without being able to further their training. They are now training, and the action, some of the controls that you see happening are those buff pollers in there, and I'm not allowed to call them buff pollers anymore. They're assistant recruits, surveillanten, right? They are the ones in their practical phase who would be doing that. What would happen now, because there's a good group of officers available there. So the scheduling of the training, when they are in the classroom training, when they are out practical, can be coordinated with the new group that is coming in, and also with events. For instance, if there's a major event taking place, like for instance the upcoming regatta, for instance, you would not have 20 of your police officers sitting down in class doing a theoretical training, because they're mostly needed then on the road. So that coordination between all of the parties would go better. So the Justice Academy will be equipped that when these new recruits come in, to continue training those that are there, and when these new recruits come in, that they would be able to get their training without any frustration. Many of the crimes, or solving the crimes, also have to do with the cross-border issue, the Dutch and the French relationship. That is good, that is going good, but more efforts will be made to improve on that relationship, such as there's already a direct communication with each other, but things like joint border controls and even joint patrols are being discussed and will take place as part of the speeding up of the program. Also, and I said from the beginning, a lot of things that can be done that doesn't require a ton of money, okay? But it requires people working together within the justice chain, people working together and coordinating better. So also it has to do, for instance, when planning public events, okay? When planning public events, when cruise ships, and how many cruise ships are in the harbor, because it needs not explaining that there's a difference in need of, for instance, of patrols if you have one cruise ship in, or if you have 7 cruise ships in, or if you have an event like the regatta taking place or not, or if you have a carnival taking place or not. So these activities would be planned better with the police force, so that the putting of the placing of the men, the patrols, would go more efficient. Other things, meetings were held with organizations, non-governmental organizations, like the merchants, the insurance representatives, the Chamber of Commerce, the public in general is often appealed to. The police also met with the Chinese community. Why? Because awareness and prevention, there are a lot of things, and this was also said, there are a lot of things that we ourselves can do and should do to prevent certain crime from happening. And the last part of that is the automated information system, the implementation and finalization thereof, where information, data can be registered better and be readily available for those who would have to investigate these crimes. That process would be sped up. The police is of the opinion that, especially with the recruitment, that they would be in a better situation to mitigate what is happening out there. And I'm confident that they will be able to do that job. You should not expect that these activities with this announcement, or even with tomorrow the recruiting of the 20 people, would stop immediately. Those guys out there are bad guys. They're doing, there's clearly no regard for human property or human life. And that is a factor that doesn't matter really how many police officers you have. You really can't do nothing about it. What you can do about it is to prevent more guys becoming like that. And that is a process that all of us have to take place in. And those discussions definitely would be taking place. As far as the police force, that is what I have to report. To go over to the prison, as we heard, another incident took place in the prison. There was a fight, and a detainee was seriously injured. I wish him well. I wish his family strength, and I hope that he recovers from his injuries. As is the case with the police, many reports have been written and plans made pertaining to the situation at the prison. And again, these plans and these recommendations have to be executed. But we are at a situation now that before we can go over and some of the very nice and academic things that are in the plans, we have to normalize the situation again at the prison, because it is not normal. We have to bring that situation back to normal. And therefore, the following has been decided. The prison director has been asked to take a leave of absence. But contrary to media reports, it was not immediately. I saw on one of the online thing that it was with immediate effect. It was not immediately. But the prison director was asked to take a leave of absence, which he consented to. Two officials already in the justice chain, so people already working in the justice chain, will be assigned the responsibility to jointly, together with the management team in the prison, to restore order. A task force consisting of representatives of the direct stakeholders, so KPSM, the police force, OM, the public prosecutors, reclassering, the Voogdijraad, will be installed to supervise the execution of these plans. The team of two will be assigned support from an HR official, a financial official, and a technical official. These are all people already working in the ministry. And what would happen is that for the period that this normalization process is taking place, they would be assigned only to do specific work for the prison. Why a HR official? There are a lot of people working at the prison that are out on sick leave. There are a lot of personnel problems, not only from their side, but from our side also. There needs to be, their legal positions, etc., has to be regulated. There is a lot of things to do. The prison have HR administrators at the prison. They do the routine things, right? Now we would have somebody who specially assigned, who is in the department, to only take care of all of those matters. So the sick leave issue, whatever process has to be done, and that would be coordinated with our central HR department. A financial official, why? because the funds that you have, the little funds that you have to use them properly. You have to manage them properly. And financial accountability is one of the things that we also have to look at, how the funds are being spent. Because if, for instance, there are funds for maintenance and the funds are used, but the maintenance is not done, then something is wrong. Okay, so that financial accountability, one of the financial persons from the ministry will be assigned only deal with, from the ministry will be assigned only to deal with matters on the prison. And then a technical official that is employed with the cabinet, that person would be looking at all of the technical issues. They go from simple to building the new prison, because that is the ultimate goal, is to build the prison, because there are plans for that on the table already, that discussions have initiated, etc. So that official, that technical official, if you read the reports, there are locks that are not working, there are doors that are not closing, from simple things like that to holes in the wall, gates that need to think. We have to secure the prison, and we have to do it good. That technical official with the maintenance team that is there, and if necessary, VROMI or contractors or whoever would get done, the technical stuff done that needs to be done, and at the same time we'll be working on the getting to the new prison. I mentioned, I believe in one of the press briefings also, the possibility of container prison as a temporary measure. That person, that official, a technical official, will also be looking into that and have things regulated. As I said, these officials are already employed, and thus a lot of money is not required. Because they're already employed, they're going to be reassigned to do their tasks. It's not totally budget neutral, but they will be reassigned. Then regular consultations between the parties, because I mentioned the task force, the two officials on the ground and the ministry, and regular consultations to monitor what is going on would take place. I told in a recent meeting with the Council of Law Enforcement, I told them that a 3 to 4 month period definitely should be needed to normalize, and not say fix the problem, to normalize the situation, that you can go over then to dealing with a more permanent solution. In the past, we brought in experts and put them in that situation to take it. I need not say that it did not work, because if it had worked, I wouldn't be standing here talking about it today. So it did not work. And why? Because not because the experts are not experts, because we are dealing with an extraordinary situation. That it takes the cooperation of everybody. And this plan is devised where I have spoken to the unions on it, and have the cooperation from the unions. The workers have to cooperate with it. All of the people mentioned in the chain have to cooperate with it, and my colleagues in the council have to cooperate with everything, because their approval is what makes it happen. So that is the immediate plan that is on the table in fixing the situation.
Family law, criminal law, labor law, corporate law, immigration law, electoral law, tax law, environmental law, inheritance law. The law matters to you. A joint venture between the Department of Communication and the University of St. Martin. The lecture series, The Law Matters to You, is aimed at informing and providing the general public of St. Martin about the different laws. We invite you to visit the official government website at www.stmartingov.org for details on upcoming lectures. The law matters to you, bringing the law closer to the people.
I initially thought that I can go home and relax, but I came basically straight from the airport and had been busy until late last night, when many of you was celebrating your Valentine's. But one of the issues that I thought it was important to bring you up to speed with is the fact that last week we had the meeting with the sort of a quadripartite with the Dutch government, the French government, so Paris. So basically The Hague, Paris, Philipsburg, and Marigot had to do with the entire issue surrounding the conflict at the Captain Oliver's marina over at Oyster Pond. The Prefet, towards the ending of the meeting, apologized for actions undertaken by them. It was based on a misunderstanding, they claim, on their part. Right now, up to yesterday, the Secretary General of ROMI, Mr. Lewis Brown, was talking to his counterpart, Mr. Fleming, on the French side for them to draft a letter on the way forward as it pertains to the construction activities at the Captain Oliver's marina. But the French have agreed to basically continue observing the status quo, which would basically entail that the jurisdiction over Captain Oliver's marina and Oyster Pond remains under jurisdiction of the Dutch side, because what you have is that the land border demarcation treaty, the negotiations for that have not even started yet. We have concluded the sea border demarcation negotiations and treaty. It was signed right here in the old government building last year, in the old administration building. It was signed, but the land border demarcation treaty is not yet nowhere close to being in place because the negotiations have not yet started. And one of the issues surrounding that or involved in that is that the Oyster Pond area is under dispute, particularly on the part of the French, as they are claiming that they should own half of it. But we are not yet there. So you can't start acting as if you own half if there is no agreement on your ownership of half. So in the course of this week, the owners and operators of the Captain Oliver's marina will get a letter explaining the way forward, and that the embargo, at least, that has been placed on the upgrading or the repairing of the facility would then be able to continue, and business would be able to continue as well. While I was away, I've taken note of comments again made. You know, there's a back and forth between the Dutch and the St. Martin government as it pertains to the integrity chamber, who is right, who is wrong, who would come with a measure, who would not come with a measure, motions of parliament and the likes. I'm sure that is a topic that members of the media would like to discuss, but what I'm saying is on Sunday I'm traveling to Aruba, and part of the discussions that I will be having in Aruba while I am there will entail a discussion with Minister Plasterk on the way forward with the Integrity Chamber. I don't want to go now into too much discussions again because it would create probably good headlines and something good to read and talk about. But I want to stress, though, that for this government, the issue of integrity is of paramount importance to us as well. But the integrity chamber, as envisioned by the Dutch, that is where the problem lies. So to say to St. Martin that St. Martin has not done anything since the agreement, since the protocol of 2015, is absolutely incorrect. Because St. Martin, back then, everyone can recall, the government, and by extension Parliament, did everything. And I described it back then as, you know, the proverbial putting the gun in the room and allowing someone to blow their own heads off. But the Dutch government was involved, or the Dutch was involved, in the drafting of the Integrity Chamber's legislation that was presented to Parliament. It was presented to Parliament. Parliament, with a majority vote, voted for the legislation, and it would have become law. But the Ombudsman filed a case with courts, and the courts, and I'm basically repeating what we have said, to again now start back with the St. Martin government didn't do anything, and they did not live up to the agreement, and therefore now the Dutch government would do what they have to do is incorrect, because the St. Martin government did do what they had to do, and including, but we live in a country that is ruled by law. So you can't tell us we want you to do something, and when we do it, and it's in conflict with our Constitution, that you then say St. Martin didn't do anything. So where we are at now is, yes, we are reviewing the steps forward, and one of the things I think that when we include that in the whole mix, we see now again, the Ombudsman has decided now they will start investigating the so-called the ZBOs, institutions such as the cadastre, and things like that. So institutions that have an independent character and nature, but is executing functions that actually belong to government or government is responsible for.